You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today, reconnecting with a longtime friend, Charlie Cole. He's over at XGEN AI now, has a crazy cool background. And we were just catching up last week about what he's doing. And then Shoptalk is coming. And we started having a great conversation and thought, hey, why don't we just record a podcast? Kind of cover where he's been, what he's currently doing now, but also maybe some Shoptalk stuff as well. But anyways, Charlie, I'll kick it over to you. Do you want to do like a background and then what you're doing now? And then we can, wherever it takes us from there.
Yeah. So it's good to see you again. It was really fun last week. It was like we were picked up right where we left off, which was awesome. So my background is I was a digital marketer turned e-commerce operator that somehow became a private equity turnaround CEO. And I'd love to tell you that I had some master plan and I played this cards perfectly, but it was really just sort of a natural evolution. So I was at a digital advertising agency when I was very, very young, 24, and then moved over to run e-commerce for Lucky. From Lucky, I ran e-commerce for a company called Shift Nutrition, which got acquired by Reckitt Benckiser. Then I went and helped build a company called Assembled Brands, which was a fashion brand incubator in New York City. Moved back to Seattle, became the chief digital officer at TUMI. TUMI got acquired by Samsonite, was the global head of e-commerce at Samsonite, and then got a call to be the CEO of FTD. And going back to this idea of just sort of like not really having a plan, but in my head, I was like, FTD, brand I've heard of, CEO, title I aspire to, let's do it. And that was about as much as I thought about it. Fortunately, it all really worked out. I worked for an amazing private equity firm called Nexus Capital Management, run by two guys named Daniel Flesch and Damien, who I always grew up as Gian Giacomo, I think. But they were just amazing to work for. But what I didn't realize is that FTD had gone through a bankruptcy in August of 2019. And so I was taking over a bankrupt company or like the whatever emerged out of bankruptcy. So I think for me, I really enjoyed it. That ended up doing another turnaround for a company called Tribute Technology. And then I took 2 months off, Aaron, and this is where you and I really riffed on it, where for like the first time in my life, I took 2 months off in a very intentional way. I took my kids to school every day, picked them up as much as I could, participated in Lila's basketball team as much as I could, and really didn't answer emails. And it was truly like one of the foremost transformative moments in my life. And I came back in January and I was really anxious about what I was going to feel and what I was going to do. And I was wondering if I was going to roll out of bed and be like, ugh, or energized. And I was not only energized, but I really had an idea of what I wanted to do. And then my buddy, Mark Steele, called me, and Mark was the CEO at XGEN. He's like, look, I need somebody who knows e-commerce and can really help me drive this thing. I did a demo of the product and it's quite literally the best front-end optimization tech I had ever seen. And so I signed on to be the president about 3 weeks ago. I'm now working on the services side for the first time really in my life. And just having a freaking blast. But it's been a wild, wild career ride, to say the least. That felt like way too long of an intro, so hopefully that worked out.
No, it's awesome. I mean, I think people love to hear the stories that you don't just wake up one day and take that role, that especially when you're younger, right? That there's a journey to be had, right? Like yours wasn't, hey, I started at 23 and at 25, I was running FTD. And then the next thing you know, I'm, with the new startup, just taking over as a president and running with it. It's not the journey that takes place, but all of those cumulative experiences add up to where, I mean, you literally have it's interesting. You have the confidence. You're like, somebody's like, hey, we got a company here. You want to be a president? You're like, I can do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the journey piece, it's funny, Aaron. One of the things I've started doing is I was approached maybe 4 or 5 years ago to be a lecturer at the University of Washington Foster School of Business. So professor named Shelley Jane pinged me and said, hey, I'm looking for someone to basically talk about how technology is changing commerce. And I just thought it was a blast and just had a wonderful time doing it. It was basically, I committed to 3 hours a quarter and I got to sort of support my alma mater. And then Shelly's like, hey, I'm teaching at Cornell. Will you come do it at Cornell? And I'm like, yeah, cool. And then Shelly's like, hey, I gave your name to the business school at Coastal Carolina. Will you come present there? And so I just did that. And it's just turned into this really cool thing. And I talk a lot about this concept of the journey and this difference between being proactive and reactive. And I think I've been extremely proactive from like very intentionally making connections, and B, always being a very genuine version of myself. Like that's what I've been very intentional about, because then when you and I reconnect, there's no platitudes, there's no sort of like cliches. But at the same time, and if that's the proactive part, I think on the reactive aspect of the journey, I've said yes to a lot of things. I've said yes to big companies, small companies. I've said yes to moving. I've said yes to, 80% travel. When I was at Samsonite, we were doing 370,000 miles a year when I was at Samsonite. And so I think those things where you talk about the journey, there are places that I think you can plan. There are places I think you can be very intentional and proactive about. But I would argue it's probably more important to be reactive and like to just take certain opportunities as they come, obviously with some semblance of diligence. But at the same time, like you never really know what's going to come around the corner. And I've sort of been tried to present that to especially like recent MBA graduates, because if you think about the business world as a total addressable market, right? Like this is every single job in the world. And you're like, well, I only want to work in Seattle, right? Like it's just like, what is your actual opportunity set going to look like? And there's nothing wrong with the answer. You just have to accept the fact of how that might impact your personal journey. So it's something I think a lot about.
You're right. Especially if you think where a marketing program is today versus where it was 10 years ago, even. So my oldest is his freshman year in college, and he wants to be, he's a business and marketing, like double major, right?
Yep.
And he's like,
Chip off the old block, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. But he's asking me, he's like, you talk to these digital marketers all day long. I want to get like, what is it? How do I prep? What is it going to look like when I graduate in 4 years from now? And I'm in the same boat as you. Like I say yes to every experience you can possibly say yes to, because obviously, again, like you said, with some diligence, but nobody knows what this is going to look like 5 years from now anymore.
No, and we might purport
so
to
fast. All you can do is stack up experiences and problem solving that allows you to be comfortable with change and tackling issues when they pop up without going completely crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
And you think about it like from a B2C side first, and I'll double back to B2B. So I really started my B2C career in 2005, right? And one of the things you would buy in 2005 is you would buy the Yahoo Mail sign-in page for a display ad. And you'd arbitrage that CPM and move people down a lead funnel. And then you go to like 2010 and you're like investing in, Exact Target. It's starting to do like really good batch and blast email. And you move forward to 2015 and PLAs are like a big newish thing. And then you move forward to 2018 and you're starting to do texts and SMS, and attentive is a thing all of a sudden. And then you move forward to 2022 and like, I guess I got to get on TikTok. I thought I just figured out Instagram. So like the landscape shifts beneath your feet, whether you like it or not. And obviously those years, I might have butchered the years, but you get my point. On the B2B side, and I'm going to say this from my 3 weeks of expertise, which is fair. But I've been on the B2B side for 3 weeks, but I've been marketed to on the B2B side for my whole life. I just think, and maybe this is wishful thinking, I just really think in this world of automated messaging and the how omnipresent digital communication is, I just think it's sort of this idea of like back to the future of like true one-to-one relationships and like actually investing the time. And I'll give you a real example from Friday. My business development team reached out to someone and said, hey, I'm going to send you a calendar invite for May to remind us to follow up. And I was just like, new rule, never do that again. right? Like they didn't ask for that. Like that's not a true authentic way. And I remember when salespeople used to do that to me, I'm like, gosh, that sucks. Like I hate this. And so I really want to create a business where the only reason I joined is because I know the tech kicks ass, right? And I know we will make people more money. And I know if I was sitting in the seat at Samsonite, I would buy it. It's the only reason I joined. So like the product needs to stand for itself, but how we market it, you know, Aaron, if you said I want to see it, I'd show it to you, but I'm not going to put you in a freaking drip campaign. And so I don't know, maybe that's wishful thinking, but I think that's the other way where marketing is becoming more personal as the technology becomes more ubiquitous. And that's what I kind of hope to convey with XGen.
You want to walk through XGen?
Oh
I'd
yeah,
love to hear a
right.
little bit more about it. And again, I totally agree with the. It's funny because I'll put a calendar if somebody wanted me to, and this is I'd be on the brand side. I just do a lot of advising calls.
Yeah.
They say they maybe attend a webinar, and I'd love to pick their brain because they said something really cool. And I'll ping them and say, hey, would be great to connect, right? Would
Yep.
love to network, knowledge share. I don't sell anything. So no sales pitch. And they'll ping me back and they'll say, hey, I can't do it. Remind me the beginning of April. I don't send them an invite for beginning of May,
Hell
April.
no,
I put a
man.
reminder on my calendar
You
and then I
betcha.
send them hey, Sandy, really enjoyed, your commentary on the webinar. Would love to pick your brain. Here's a couple of things I'd love to chat about. More than happy to open my network up to you. Let me know if you're still up for it. But yeah, never inviting somebody to a reminder. It's awesome.
Well, so XGen, I'm going to start with sort of a hyper simplistic view of what the front end of e-commerce has been. And when I mean the front end, I mean the thing the customer experiences, because there's lots of while they're shopping. There's lots of back end tech and we can get super, but I'm doing everything I can to sort of have an extremely pragmatic view of what generative AI can do to the customer experience. So the first thing is I'm going to give a very simplistic view of how e-commerce front end has been powered up to this point. Basically, you have an item master and a digital asset manager, or a PIM DAM as it's called. That serves as your back-end table of contents of the various things you want to show people via product pages, pricing, etc. It's then put into what's called a product feed ubiquitously. That product feed is sent to things like Google Shopping or Facebook for advertisements. That product feed is then supplemented with enhanced attributes, which are generally done either by a merchant manually or by some like piece of AI stuff that like will introduce more and more words into what is ostensibly a flat file table of contents of what you want the world to know, right? So you look at my shirt, is my shirt black or gray? Is it white cuffed or is it gray cuffed? Is it short sleeve or it's long sleeved? Theoretically, this table of contents will have all this information, and then search engines can look at that table of information and apply it to various front-end applications in e-commerce. Think like pricing, promotion, grid sort ordering, site search, recommendations. What XGen is and what I really want it to be, I want XGen to be the best applier of generative AI to the e-commerce front-end customer experience to improve revenue per session. Okay. What it actually does today is we power site search and recommendations. What it will do tomorrow, call it Q3 or Q4, we're actually doing a guided shopping merchandising piece of generative AI. So you can actually talk to it and talk back. And if you think about what's different about it, yeah, it has that table of contents and we can do semantic and contextual search based on that. But then it also has AI image search. So you don't have to tell it that it's white cuff, that it's short sleeve, that it's 8 buttons, that it's wide shouldered, like whatever this shirt is. And then we have verticalized generative AI models that literally live and breathe and learn. And so as we power all these customers around, the Valentinos, the Armanis, the Sonoses, the Reformations, they are all training models that just get smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter. But not only that, because they're based on top of the kind of composable generative AI network, theoretically, Aaron, if you search for a dress today and there's a runway show in London tomorrow that goes viral, you will get different search results the next day based on what's happening in the greater world. So if you think about what generative AI can do, and I wrote an article about this a couple of days ago, e-commerce has had this promise of personalization for a really long time. And it's all been not true. I just censored myself a little bit because I don't know if this is a family show. But I really believe that generative AI can actually fulfill the promise of improving your customer experience in a one-to-one basis in a way that's been promised for a long time but never been done. And to boil it down really, really simply, you're an e-commerce company, you make more money per session, right? You're a consumer, you have a much better experience, you're more likely to engage that brand and become a raving fan of it. That's it, right? So we want to make software that accomplishes those two things. And the reason I joined is I had a demo for me for 30 minutes and I said, this is the best I've ever seen. And so that's what I'm doing now. And so I'm really excited to sort of be powering this product from the lens as an e-commerce operator, because like these are all problems that I've always wanted to solve and have probably spent millions of dollars on software that didn't fulfill the promises. And now I'm seeing these results from our current clients and them becoming these raving fans. I think we can make people a lot of money while also having the customer to have a far better journey as a shopper and as experience with the brand overall.
So it's a different take on personalization. If I break down, kind of, I think what you were saying a little bit was how it's not quite all there. When we think about personalization is I'm going through and I'm doing all the tagging possible I can,
Yep.
such that if I'm on site, right, then I type in black, short sleeve, button down, it's going to only give me results based on how it's been tagged in the back end.
Exactly right.
But then you're going to...
And it's worth noting those tags may be supplemented by some sort of AI code back there too, but you're still limited to that table.
But as opposed to where I see search rapidly changing, and I put a lot of this because of Perplexity or ChatGPT, it's changed how I search, right? A Google search is completely different than ChatGPT.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
For me, right? But if it's all based on tagging, but if instead of it, you can still tag it, but if I can have that all in and there's a platform that's looking at the image and determining what it is, it then can apply attributes based on if it's matching with my new type of search, which it might not be. It's like, can you help me find, this is how I would do it for Google. Like the same thing, black dress shirt, wedding. Or if I'm on ChatGPT or Perplexity or wherever, can you help me find a black shirt, button down for a wedding? My wife's dress is, and I might even attach a link to this dress here.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two completely different things. One is based on tagging. The other one is going out and finding it. In that, am I picking up on this? I guess what I'm saying is I can now search however I want. And
I actually think you're touching on two really important themes. So the average Google query is around 3 words. It's between 2 and 4, depending on who you ask and when you ask it. I actually just asked GPT the other day, what's the average query length for people that use you? And so GPT themselves told me that it's 8 to 12 words. So right away, Aaron, you're right. There's this macro there, which is you have a longer query string, and just longer inherently means slightly more complex. However, if you ask 100 of the best e-commerce operators in the country, right? Like find the head of commerce at Nike, find the head of commerce at Williams-Sonoma, find the head of commerce at insert website here. And you ask them the following question: would you rather have a user who comes to your site looking for jeans or comes to your site looking for tight black jeans? The answer is always the second one, because by definition, that person is further down the buying funnel. They've narrowed their selection down, so they're far more likely to transact. That's a positive correlation, ostensibly, between query length and conversion rate. And it just makes sense. If I need, let's take the Williams-Sonoma example, if I need a pan versus I need a nonstick 12-inch pan with wooden handle, I'm going to be a hell of a lot more likely to buy if you fill my needs when I'm down that buying funnel. And so I actually think it's a unique opportunity for commerce brands to encourage the user to actually ask for what they want. Because no one just wants jeans. Like no one on earth. But we've all been ostensibly trained to use these site searches and work our way through it and go and use filters and go and use breadcrumbs because we're uncomfortable knowing we're going to break the search.
Right.
I
don't do it. You're right. I don't do it because I'm going to get 0 results. The more I put in on a traditional search, the few, it breaks, and then I get nothing. We can't find it, and then I'm back.
Aaron, I'll tell you a true story. Saturday night, my wife and I, our daughter's playing softball the first time. My daughter's 6. We don't know what the hell we need, right? We're getting just like this list, and it says she needs black softball pants. Cool, I can do this. I went to one of the largest sports websites on earth, and I typed in black softball pants for a 6-year-old girl. 0 search results.
0. Yeah.
And so like, I'm not saying it's easy. Well, let me back up. It's very hard for archaic technology using that sort of contextual and semantic stuff that I talked about to solve that problem. It's freaking easy for a generative AI based search engine to do it, especially if it's supplementing a vertical model for the fashion and sporting goods world and an image-based AI search. And because you know what they know? Do you know what would happen if you went into ChatGPT today and you could type in, hey, what's the average inseam length for a 6 to 7-year-old girl? It'll actually be able to contextualize that answer. You don't have to guess. It doesn't mean it's be perfect, but that's what makes me super excited is we as a commerce community for years have basically asked our consumers to simplify. And I think generative AI can actually lead you as a brand to have a relationship with your customers where, God forbid, they tell you what they want, as opposed to going on some freaking scavenger hunt across your website. So I think that's why it's a foundational shift in kind of how to think about how commerce can change.
But then it is personalized as well. Like if you can install this on every website I use, I couldn't tell you thank you enough. Right?
Oh,
it was just probably why you saw this and we're like, I'm all in.
Well, and we do the other stuff. Like we'll ingest the brand CDP. We'll ingest all the event tags that they have through Google Analytics or whatever analytics platform they need. So we're going to use all of both we're going to use the phrase of the day, reactive versus proactive, right? That's all reactive data. Like I talked about in an interview I gave a week or two ago, when I was at Lucky Brand, I installed one of the first major recommendations engines, and it's actually still one of the leaders in the commerce space. And the thing that drove us nuts was if you had bought jeans from us before and the recommendations engine was optimizing to revenue per session, it's going to show you jeans all the time because you've already indicated propensity to buy. However, no brand, none want to limit themselves in that way and having the brand like, I only think of Lucky for jeans. I would never buy their handbags. I would never buy their shirts. I would never buy their shoes. No brand wants that, right? And so how do you actually predict, hey, this is Aaron. Here's his data that he's bought. Here's his data that he's browsed. Let's show him stuff that's going to expand his relationship with the brands that's predictive, not reactive. And so this is where I go down the rabbit hole pretty quick, man. But you can tell why I'm pretty pumped up about why we can, on average, improve some site search results in the high teens, low 20%. And so these e-commerce sites, depending on if you're a hyper simplistic site, like when I ran digital at TUMI was like 200 SKUs, right? Versus if you ran digital at like, I'll use Women's Sonoma again, they have a lot of bloody SKUs. Your site search is usually between 6 and 25% of your sessions. So imagine if you could increase the revenue for 6 to 25% of your users by 20 to 25%, that's like a free 1 to 5% comp. That's where I kind of feel like as somebody who's been on that side of the table, I can really speak to the tech and hold the tech accountable in a way that other people don't.
Yeah. Wow. For me, and again, this is all me search, right? And this is all me search.
Yeah, all I care, that's actually why I built the product, was just to solve your problems.
Yes. It's like, thank you. I appreciate that. Now it's personalized. I've asked you a specific question. And because I've given you more information, this is why almost all of these questions I've switched over, right? To a Gen AI platform is I want to be able to ask a more specific question to me so I can get an answer out.
Yeah.
Not a bunch of search results, but an actual answer out. And if you can give me an answer to I'm becoming hyper personalized by putting more in. I'm telling you more about myself and what I'm looking for. And if you can then give it to me quicker, I will convert faster. Not only that, but I will come back again and again and again because you made it so simple and giving me exactly what I wanted. And then if you want to add in anything else. Hey, by the way, based on your search and everything else, you might need, a pair of pants, or here's the number one selling tie. Make all the recommendations you want because you answered a question not with 950 different search results or zero and made me go hunt more, but you gave me exactly. And then I might start testing your engine like I do, like ChatGPT, right? That's just the reality. It's
Well, and then you get into this idea of a living merchandising assistant where you can have a conversation with it, where you can be like, hey, I'm looking for pants. Are they summer or winter? Summer. Here are some examples. What do you not like about these? Oh, they look a little too flowy, right? And so now you have a living, breathing search. But I want to bring up another kind of true story, Aaron, and I referenced this on LinkedIn, but it's a really good example of user behavior changing. We do this thing around my dinner table every night where my wife, my daughter who's 6, and my son who's 5, and myself talk about the thing that their favorite moment of the day and one time they were kind. And we just do that every night. It's just sort of like a tradition we do. And my wife's for the day was something along the lines of, my favorite moment of the day was seeing how much fun dad's having at his new gig. Okay. And that was her favorite moment of the day. And my 6-year-old daughter asked the question, so dad, like, what is your new job? And I was like, okay, how do I explain this to a 6-year-old, right? How do I explain, well, I use generative AI to optimize mobile applications to improve e-commerce conversion rate. Like, that's probably not going to work. But if you take that question, I would argue that we've been talking to websites like we've been talking to 6-year-olds for about 20 years. I want jeans, right? I want black jeans, right? But now we can actually start to talk to each other in whatever we want, and including a 6-year-old. So my daughter, I said, well, what kind of dress do you want? And I put this on LinkedIn, so some people have seen this already. She's like, I want a dress that makes me look like a unicorn. And I put it in the website and pulled up, and she's like, Dada, that one's perfect. What she had said in her head was, I want a super sparkly, like fun, rainbowy dress. But she said, I want a dress that looks like a unicorn. Generative AI can get there. There isn't a product feed on earth that has the attribute dress that looks like a unicorn. So they're flying blind. And this is where I think the average e-commerce professional is going to be like, yeah, but people don't search like that. Why? It's because we've been trained not to. And so you go to some of our customers' websites, they will prompt you to search for elegant black dress for a dinner party. They'll actually encourage you. And then you'll be like, wait, I can search like that? And so I do think that there's something to be said about how much of a consumer behavior is because we've trained consumer to talk to us like a 6-year-old versus what do consumers actually want to do. And that's where I think generative AI can be a true unlock for our product and beyond.
100%.
I'm having fun, man. Like, this is fun. It's literally solving the problems that I've like railed against my entire career.
It'll be amazing. I want it rolled out on every site that I shop on.
You got it. Give me your brand list. I'll reach out.
I have to make 50 connections after this.
You got it.
And just tell people, like, if you show up at a dinner, you're required to install this on your search. Because I mean, that's it. It just makes life. I don't have the time to search through search results anymore. I do everything with Perplexity or ChatGPT. Like, I plan vacations on them. Literally everything. Look up recipes. It doesn't matter. Like, I do everything, right? Like, just for the fun of it, I'm training again, my oldest and the other kids to just try it out.
Yeah.
How many different ways can you try to break the system? And if you can break it, then maybe you've got a business opportunity. And
also it's worth noting that it's just going to get better and better and better and better and better. Like Jensen Huang was quoted, I think about 2 months ago, that their ability to double processor speeds for generative AI based chips is doubling every 14 months. Now, remember Moore's law with Intel processor speeds, which kind of launched this whole idea of like really being able to do machine learning in real time, was every 18 months. And so like, it's not like we've met peak optimization here. If anything, if this is a 9-inning game, I would guess we're in inning 2 or 3, which is both super exciting and a little scary.
Yeah. This is awesome. So we have to shift right as we get to the end here. We have to shift to Shoptalk. Are you excited about it? Want to make sure we capture this. I know you do a really cool like party every year at the end of the, I don't know if it's the second or third night, but
Usually the second night. Yeah. So the story goes, my buddy Ryan Bonificino and he at the time, so I think the timing's right. He was the CMO at Alex and Ani. I think I was the chief digital officer at TUMI. And we spoke on a panel together. And it was like one of those panels, like in the movie Step Brothers, where we got done and we're like, did we just become best friends? You betcha, right? Like that was sort of Ryan and I. And what we noticed was it's really hard for brands to meet each other with absolutely no agenda and just make genuine connections. And so he and I would get a suite every year. We'd refuse sponsorships and we would just throw a party, just like a house party. And we didn't have any real goals for it besides like, I was joking with you before this call that it's kind of a family reunion. Like these are all people that I've grown up with and, gone to dinner with and like met their kids, and some of them went to my wedding. And so it's just kind of taking on a life of its own, honestly, which has been awesome. So we do that Tuesday night. But like to me, Shoptalk is this big monster that you can really let it get away from you unless you go into it with a lens of, I'm going to make some true, genuine connections, right? And just make that be your goal. And my process has always been, I want to walk the entire expo floor. It usually takes me about 3 to 4 hours, and I want to look at every piece of tech that I've never heard of, right? That becomes ostensibly your innovation roadmap. Like the millions of dollars that are being invested by companies and seeds and venture capital rounds, I want to know what's going on with them. And then I want to write down a couple, and then I want to just go meet people in a one-to-one basis, ideally, then follow it up with like larger dinners and follow it up with larger parties. But like, let's be honest, Aaron, like the last show always culminates in a pool party. There's not a lot of genuine connections being made at the pool party. It's just fun, right? And that's awesome. Like I want people to have lots and lots of fun, but that means you have to be that much more intentional from call it 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then by all means, just go have fun as well. But I just think it's such a special event. And the founders of Shoptalks are close friends. I'm on the advisory board emeritus, which I guess that means something. But it's just an event that is special to me. And I bring my wife every year, so she kind of gets to kind of experience my community as well, which I think is awesome. So I just love the event, and I love kind of making general connections. And my truly favorite thing is that like I've connected probably 100 people at this party that they end up working with each other. That just means the world to me. So it can be a truly special event that I think on the outside can feel very overwhelming, but you have to sort of make it smaller into a community the best you can.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it. I mean, I love people and connecting, right? That's it. That's my jam. And I go every year. I do the same. I love walking. I love walking the floor. And you find some of the coolest stuff in the niche outer edges.
100%. I mean, like this has been something that I've evolved my thinking on, right? Because I think it's very easy for a brand leader to get annoyed by like how many vendors and sponsors are there, but you have to change your purview. And I've said this before. This isn't just me saying this now that I'm on the B2B side. I actually wrote an article about this like 5 years ago. Just think of all the vendors as people investing more money than you could ever fathom into solving digital problems. And that might not be right for you. Like what they're doing might not be right for you, but it can be extremely inspiring and truly influence your product roadmap as an e-commerce leader. So, I mean, if you just think of these vendors that are investing money as inspiration, you can learn an awful, awful, awful lot. Like I remember the first time I saw a customer data platform, and I'm like, where has this been my whole life? Right now, they're ubiquitous. Now there's like 25 vendors that are all saying it. But to your point, I think the first one I saw was like Agile One in 2017 in one of the outer booths. Like, so to your point, it's exactly right. I love that point of view.
Yeah, I don't think I've never heard it been put that way, but I love how you just put it. These people are spending inordinate amounts of cash, not yours, other people's, to potentially solve a problem you have. Like giving them 5 minutes to even say to them, because I spent a lot of time just connecting with them anyway, so just giving them advice, right? They don't all make it into the network. I don't always do a dinner or webinar, but even like, hey, did you think about this? I know you're solving this problem. If you could solve these 2 other ones as well, they're directly adjacent, I would sign up with you tomorrow, right? Or those people are looking for advice they do want to sell product. That's why they're there. But everybody's doing product development. They want to know what they need to solve for. Give them 5 minutes. Give them 5 minutes.
Well, and this is the other thing that I've ranted about in the past. Who do you think's paying for whoever's playing the concert this year? Like, I don't know. Do you know who it is off the top of your head? It's probably like Ludacris or Cisco or someone like that.
Yeah, right.
But like, where do you think this money comes from? Like, so we're all part of an ecosystem that is reinforcing each other and like can support each other. And I will be the first to admit, Aaron, when I was starting my career, I was not this community oriented. I was much more transactional. I was much more like, what can you do for me? But I think as you grow up a little bit and you get to be a part of the ecosystem a little bit, it's really about sort of like lifting each other up. And so one of the things I'll say a lot is like, hey, I've never heard of your tech. Like, what's the 30-second pitch? And like, I truly want 30 seconds because, I might have 1,000 of them that day, so I can't do a minute. And so I just think it's a great way to learn. And so I would encourage everybody to do it. And I would say that it can be extremely intimidating, but I just say, be very assertive, walk quickly, look fast. And in all honesty, I have seen in my shop talks, at least 10 people pass out on the floor. So drink a lot of water. All right. You're in Vegas. You might be doing nighttime opportunities. I'm telling you, drink a lot of water is one of my other things I tell everybody.
Are there other top ones as we get ready to wrap it up here? Are there other top ones? Like, I get asked that all the time. Hey, what is your top?
Other shows?
Yeah.
I think what Veronica Scott and Alan have built at Commerce Next is really special. Yeah. I think, the team at eTail West has really turned over quite a bit, but I actually managed to pop out there for a day. That's still that's like a very like well-sized event. It's not as big, right? So it's easier to make.
I love that one. I love it. Yeah.
And then I would just say, keep an eye on what Jill Dvorak's doing at NRF, man. Like, Jill just came back to the company a little while ago. I'm excited about NRF Nexus, but Jill is just an e-commerce veteran and just a remarkable human being that I bet you will do some pretty special stuff. So those would be the 4 that I leap to mind for me. Oh, and if you're looking for a small group, I think what Marty Funk does at Retail Ascendant, they're very, very good as well. So that'd be my hit list and the ones that I've always participated in the brand. And now I'm like, hey, I guess I'm a sponsor now, which is an awkward interchange.
Well, Charlie, this has been an absolute pleasure. Really appreciate you and jumping on today and sharing. And any of my network I can share with you. More than happy to do it.
Likewise, Bill. Great to see you.
With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody, for listening in.